We're going to do a plug-and-play remote starter that activates from the OEM remote on a 2021 Toyota Camry. This installation is good for the 2018 through 2021 Camry with a standard key or Key Start Camry. We're going to start with the disassembly. We're going to use a plastic panel removal tool. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pop off the side panel of the dash. To remove some of the gasket here, so get the side panel off. We're going to remove the two Phillips screws from the underside of the dash, one located here and one located on the opposite side. We're going to release the clips underneath the dash and drop the lower dash panel down. Now push the released clips. Remove the lower dash. We're going to have the diagnostic plug in the lower dash here. We're going to want to release the diagnostic plug from its housing or the lower dash. So we're going to go ahead and push the ears in on the side. We're going to release the hood release so that we can remove the lower dash panel. Here, there's a little piece right here we're just going to pull down on, and we can go ahead and slide the hood release back. So this is a little release clip right in here. With the hood release lever disconnected, we can go ahead and we can apply outward pressure and remove the small portion of the dash covering the BCM. You can leave the switches hanging, or you can remove all the plugs from the switches and then remove the clip, and you can take the lower dash panel completely away. We're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the steering column cover plastic. Going to remove the Phillips screw from the bottom. We're also going to remove two Phillips from the face of the steering column cover plastic. You have to move the steering wheel in order to access them. So we're going to go ahead and put the key in, and we're going to turn the steering wheel so that we can go ahead and remove the Phillips screw located here, right here on the face of the steering column cover plastic, and we have one opposite on the other side. We're going to go ahead and remove them. So here's a close-up of the screw we're removing from the face of the steering column cover plastic. We're going to rotate the steering wheel so we can take out the other Phillips screw on the other side. I'll give you a close-up of where that screw is. So removing the second Phillips screw. With both screws removed, we're going to recenter the wheel. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the steering column cover plastic. We're going to go ahead, we're going to apply pressure to the side with our thumb. So we're going to apply pressure on the side and then lift up on the steering column cover plastic and separate the plastic. The top will stay connected, and we're going to go ahead and remove the bottom piece. Have to shut the key off and remove it from the ignition, and remove the lower portion of the steering column cover plastic. First two plugs we're going to be interrupting are going to be the main ignition plug located right here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to push in the lock clip and unplug the main ignition plug. And we're also going to be interrupting the key sense plug also, which is located right here on the side of the ignition barrel. We're going to go ahead and we're going to press in the release clip and unplug the key sense also. We're going to locate our key sense and our ignition plug on our T-harness. We're going to go ahead and we're going to route these plugs up behind the airbag along the steering column, because we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug them in. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug the ignition plug portion of the T-harness into the ignition plug. Then we're going to plug the ignition plug that we removed from the ignition switch into the other side of the ignition plug T-harness end. And we're going to plug in the key sense. And we're going to plug the key sense plug that we originally removed from the key sense into the T-harness. So it's only going to go one way. And it will click and easily lock in. If you're forcing it, you have it incorrectly positioned. We're going to move on to the next plug. The next two plugs that we're going to be dealing with plug into the BCM. The BCM is located back here and has several plugs plugged into it. I'm going to show you specifically what plugs we're going to be using on the BCM, or actually what plugs we're going to be interrupting with our T-harness. So we have a close-up of the plugs on the BCM module. We're going to be dealing with this plug right here. This is the first plug, and then the plug right above it. We're going to go ahead and unplug both of these plugs. So there's a release clip. We're going to push the clip in and pull the plug out. And we're going to do the same with the lower plug. So we've got both plugs removed. We're going to go ahead and plug our T-harness plugs into the corresponding plugs. So we're going to be using our black plugs on our T-harness. One is narrower than the other. I'll call it the smaller plug. The smaller plug is the bottom or the lowest plug on the BCM. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug the smaller plug into the lowest port or the bottom port on the BCM. We're going to do it from up underneath so that our wire routing is good for reassembly. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug in the smaller plug, and it should fit in perfect, and it should press in and lock in without forcing it. Now we're going to take the plug that's slightly wider, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring it up underneath, and we're also going to plug that plug into the BCM as well. So we're going to go ahead and plug the next plug in. Now we'll have both of our plugs routed up through the top here, so we can go ahead and plug the plugs that we removed from the vehicle into our T-harness plugs. And I'm going to give you a close-up when it's done so you can see exactly what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug the smaller of the two plugs in first. And then I will show you what it looks like up close. Okay, so we have our T-harness plugged into port 1 and port 2 of the BCM. And then we have the plugs that we removed from the BCM plugged into the other side of the T-harness plugs. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step. Now, in one of the first steps when we dropped the lower dash portion and removed this portion of the dash, we unclipped the diagnostic plug from its housing or the lower dash. We're going to go ahead and we're going to locate our diagnostic plug T-harness, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug the diagnostic end that we unclipped into our diagnostic plug T-harness end. Now, this is the end, the diagnostic plug T-harness end that we're going to mount when we reassemble the vehicle. So this gives us our T-harness connection, and this will still give us our access point for a scan tool so that we can have our T-harness intact when we reassemble the vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave this here, and this will be put back in the housing on reassembly, but our connections have been made. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to the next step. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to pair our module. Now, if you purchased your system from me, the harness is going to come configured, eliminating the need for you to take it out of the package and configure everything, and the module is going to come flashed and ready to install. So we're going to go ahead and pair the module. We're going to locate the program button on the top of the module. Right here is a little push button. We're going to hold this push button in while we insert the 6-pin plug to our T-harness. When we do this, the 3 LEDs are going to begin to cycle, which means they'll illuminate one at a time, and they'll go through different colors, blue, red, and yellow. And we're going to want to release this button when both the blue and the red LEDs are lit. I'm going to go ahead and show you. So we're going to take our 6-pin plug from the harness, hold the program button down on the module, plug in the 6-pin plug. The LEDs are going to begin to cycle. When both the blue and red are lit, we're going to release the button. The lights will stay blue and red. If you do something else and you don't release on blue-red, you can remove the plug and repeat the procedure. Now, being very careful not to touch the button again, we're going to plug in the remaining 3 plugs into our device. We're going to go ahead and locate the 20-pin plug, which is the longest white plug on the device. We're going to plug that in. We're going to make sure it locks. And again, we're being very careful not to touch the button. Now we're going to plug in our white plug, and we're going to plug in our red plug. With all of the harnesses plugged in, we're going to press and release the program button on the top of the module 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now if we watch the lights, they'll blink 9 times and they'll pause. They'll repeat the 9 blink and pause. This is a way to confirm that we've pressed the button 10 times. So we have our 9 blinks with a pause. We're going to go ahead, we're going to place the key in the ignition and turn the ignition to the run position. We're going to have both of our lights flash fast. They're going to go out. The blue light's going to come back on and flash rapidly. At this point, we're going to shut the key off and remove it from the ignition. Our device is paired to the vehicle. Now our device is paired to the vehicle. We could remote start the vehicle now and use the remote starter. There's only one small problem. If you want this remote to function while the engine is running, then you must do what's called a TPMS interruption. The TPMS interruption involves cutting or interrupting a wire over on the BCM. I'm going to show you the TPMS interruption wire that you will have to interrupt to complete this job and have the OEM remote function while the engine is running. So we're looking at the BCM, we're looking at the TPMS wire that we're going to cut and interrupt. So if you look here, we want the second wire down. So on the corner pin we have this red wire with a white stripe. The next pin down we have our white wire with a black stripe. This is the TPMS wire that we're going to want to interrupt. So again, it's not the corner pin, it's the second pin down located right here. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to remove some of this insulation so we can do our interruption away from the BCM. That way if we have any problems, we have plenty of wire to reconnect. So we have our wire isolated. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut the wire, and we're going to strip both sides of the cut that we make. Now keep in mind, we're going to cut it way down here. Now this will be more comfortable for us to make our connection. So we've left quite a bit up at the BCM, and we've gone ahead and we've cut the wire. Now, as you can see, we have the wires cut and stripped. If you have a hard time accessing the plug, or you would like a little more room, you can use like a pick tool. Go up behind this little piece here, push the top clip down, and you can go ahead and you can unplug the plug completely for more working room. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our connections. So on our T-harness, Up by the plugs that go up to the ignition switch, there are two wires banded together with a bread tie. We have a white and green and a white and red. These are the TPMS interruption wires. We're going to go ahead and we're going to unband the wires, and we're going to route them over to the two wires that we interrupted for the TPMS interruption in order to keep the OEM remote functional while the engine is running in remote start mode. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to route the wires over. And so with the wires routed over to our cut, we're going to take the white wire with a red stripe. We're going to strip about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of the insulation, and we're going to wrap it around the stripped wire that comes off of the plug for the TPMS wire that we cut. I'm going to give you a close-up after I'm done. So we're going to want to twist them together good so they have a good physical connection. And then what I'm giving with my kit are 2 wire nuts. You're welcome to use any type of connection method you want for these. I send wire nuts, so you don't need special tools or crimpers. If you have crimpers, a crimp cap will work, butt connector, solder, however you want to do it. But these wires must be interrupted while the engine is running in remote start mode, and these connections will do that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect the white and green to the other side of our cut. Now these 2 wires go down to the EVO, and the EVO actually opens up this wire while the engine is running, and that will allow the OEM remote to function while the engine is running in remote start mode. If you do not do this, if you remote start the vehicle with the OEM remote, once the vehicle is up and running, the OEM remote will no longer work. So it is not required, but it is required if you want to keep the remote working while the engine is running. So at this point, we're done with the installation. We're going to make sure that we plug this BCM plug in correctly. I'm going to give you a close-up of plugging in the plug. So you can see our connections here. Here's the plug side of our interruption and the vehicle side of the interruption. White and red to the plug side, white and green to the vehicle side. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug this in. Make sure we still have this piece back. So all the way back. We don't want this pushed up and locked. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the plug in, and as we push it in, you'll see that this clip will go in and lock. And we want to give it a little pull to make sure it's all the way in there, and push on that to make sure it's locked. If you have any problems, remove the plug and reinsert it gently. We don't want to bend any pins. If you don't want to remove the plug and you have plenty of working room, you don't have to remove the plug. I did it to get a little bit more room. We're going to trigger remote starting from the OEM remote by locking the doors 3 times. We're going to lock the doors 3 times, leaving a little bit of time between lock commands. Lock, lock, lock. The engine will start, the vehicle will run for 15 minutes. We can also turn the vehicle off from our OEM remote by pressing lock 3 times again. So we've remote started the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and we're going to unlock the vehicle using the OEM remote. I'm going to show you the remote stays functional while the engine is running. There's the doors unlocking. Now when we open the doors, the vehicle will also stay running because this is a key start vehicle and not a push to start vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter the vehicle. Now one of the things you're going to see is your TPMS light blinking, and then eventually it will illuminate solid. This is because we did the TPMS interruption. The wire is actually interrupted during remote start, so right now the wire is disconnected, and having that wire disconnected allows us to keep the OEM remote functional during remote start. So when we do what's called key takeover, that's the point where we transition from running on remote start to running on the key. this light's going to turn off. Now I'm going to show you what key takeover is and how it's done on this vehicle. So you enter the vehicle and you're going to drive the vehicle. You want to enter without stepping on the brake pedal. You want to place the key in the ignition and turn the ignition to the run position. Now, with the key in the run position, we're going to press the brake pedal. The point when we press the brake pedal is the point when the remote starter is going to turn off. At this point, the TPMS light, I've just pressed the brake pedal, will turn off. Takes a second or two. The light turns off because that wire is reconnected, the TPMS interruption wire, and now the vehicle will not show a TPMS error, and you would go ahead and place the vehicle in gear and drive away. Our system is smartphone compatible. If you purchase the system from me and you want to add the MyCar Smartphone controller, you would receive the controller assembly configured and ready to plug in for a one-plug connection. If you're adding it to something you already have, I have videos that I can send you that will show you the pairing process. But again, if you purchase this as a kit, I'll already pair the MyCar to the Evo, so you can do exactly what I'm doing in this video. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the blue plug and we're going to plug it into the blue 4-pin plug port on the top of the device, right next to the small white plug. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug in the MyCar. When we plug it in, it's going to immediately try to acquire a cellular and GPS signal. The red light is a GPS indicator light, and the green light that you will see coming on right now is the cellular connection indicator light. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let this connect. It's labeled what side is to be faced downward. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just leave it sitting with the correct side facing the satellite or the sky. So we're going to go ahead and set it down, and we're going to wait a couple of minutes, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to test the smartphone controller. We've installed our smartphone controller and we've downloaded the MyCar app. We're going to go ahead and we're going to lock our doors. When we lock the doors, we actually get a confirmation and an indication that the doors are locked. We're going to go ahead and we're going to unlock the doors. Okay, again, we get the sound and the indicator that the doors are unlocked. If you notice also, we have the vehicle interior temperature, battery voltage, and a signal strength indicator. I'm going to go ahead and start the engine. Now we've sent the command. The engine will start. The runtime is set for 15 minutes, so if you watch the runtime indicator right here, it's going to indicate that we have 15 minutes. We can shut the engine off anytime we want by sending an off command. Now we can also release the trunk. Go ahead and I'll do that. I'll show you again. I think I moved the phone a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and pop the trunk, watch in the back. There goes the trunk opening. We can use GPS tracking and track the vehicle. And that is exactly where it is, right at my shop, in front of the Walmart in Glenville, New York. Now, about the MyCar app, the first year of service is included with the purchase of the MyCar unit. Each additional year is currently priced at $39.99 per year, which is a very good deal if you shop around with the drone and DirectEd's app. You'll find that this is very good pricing on the MyCar app. Again, we'll go ahead and we'll lock our vehicle, and we'll go ahead and we'll start our vehicle. We're going to offer this as a package, or you can upgrade at any time. I have videos that will show you how to program the module if you're upgrading. If you're purchasing it as a kit, I will have already programmed everything so you can just follow the steps outlined in this video, and you don't need any additional steps. Thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you at Warmcarnow.